right? You can go ahead.
All right.
Whatever you want.
All right, I'm going to start picking up things.
Okay.
This is a bronze vase that was made in the 1430 to 1440 century or dynasty, and that symbol there tells you that. Now this, I sent my number one boy out to get me an ashtray, and he came back with this. Beautiful. And I said, that's just fine, but I need, a couple of things here to keep my pipe or cigarette in. I said, how about getting something put there for that? So he went back out and had this cut down and put 2 copper things in here for my pipe cigarette. After I got home, I found out what this meant and how old it was, and I've ruined a most valuable, precious bronze piece, 400 years old. See?
Yeah, but now it has an additional history to it.
It sure does, absolutely. But it would have a lot more. It would have that. But I tell you, I have another one that's a little different from this that has that same dynasty on it that I sent to my mother. She got it, and it was black like this, and she says, well, that sure is dirty. So she polished it. So when I got home, it was, red bronze. So anyway, it's still real, like the real McCoy. But that is something. Now here is a opium pipe, and this is an opium tobacco pouch. And a lot of times they kept the tobacco and opium together. Now they would get it out of there with this, and this pipe is what they smoked. And they take it and put it in here and then pack it down and put this back, and then they would light it and smoke this as an opium pipe. You don't take much opium to it, do you? So that's what that is. Now, I saw them, in these little dens smoking that kind of pipe.
The Chinese?
Yeah. This is a fancy one, fancy as most of them. But
and how did you get that? Did you buy it?
Yeah, I bought it in a shop at Chanting out there in Far East China. So we had that. All right, now this is a chop. You know what a chop is? It is the way the Chinese sign their names. See, most Chinese can't write, and they don't even have a name to write. If they do, they don't know how to write it. So, making a Chinese character it's a piece of art, really, and you have to learn how to do it. So they have what is known as a chop. Now that chop will have just the characters on it. Now I don't know whether you can see that or not, but that's Hightower in the middle.
Okay, I tell you what, hold it there just for a second. Let me focus in on it.
All right, can you see it? Or shall I turn it towards you?
Tell you what, if you can direct it right at the camera.
Right there.
Okay.
All right.
I can sort of see that.
All right.
Yeah.
You got it? Okay. Now the top is Emily A. Hightower. This is Emily's. I have one George V. Hightower that I use, and I use it in my office all the time. Now any book I have, I stamp it with this. See, that's my chop, and it's done by. They have a thing that's used sort of pasty red ink, and you take this and do that, and it comes and you transpose it to whatever you stamp it. Mine's dried out, so I use an American regular stamp pad with red ink in it, and it'll give me a chop. So here's a chop. I'm using this instead of this. This is what it normally is, see. So I use the American here, and what I get is this. See, that'll give you an idea of what a chop is. Now, this is the Emily A. Hightower. And
do that for me. Okay, show it to me again.
All right, that's Emily A. Hightower.
Okay.
And this is Hightower in Chinese characters, see. And see, I give it talks, and I always pull it out and I chop one time. That'll give you how many talks I gave to this one page. But that's what I do with that.
Now,
and that came.
That while you were in China too.
Yeah, this was given to me.
Oh, given to you.
Yeah, this was the Chinese. One of my friends, officers or something, gave it to me. See, and it had its own ink built in, and this chop goes right like that. And this has a slide cover like that.
What is it made of? Is that?
This, I think this is camphor wood. And this is that paste I was telling you. See, it's hard now, and I can't use it. But originally it was pasty, and you could take your chop. See, it just fits like that.
So what's the chop made out of?
That's jade.
Jade.
Yeah, this is a real jade. See the carving on it? It's beautifully carved.
Oh wow! Let me get.
Yeah. See if you can pick it up. It's beautifully carved. you get the reflection right, maybe you can pick it up. Can you see it?
Get a little bit of it. Oh, yeah, okay.
But that's beautiful. It's on all sides. Beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
But these were given to me, and I came back with about 4 or 5 sets of these. Another one was smaller. It had a glass front case and had the 2 in there that were beautiful. And then I had 2 others that had dragons, not dragons, dogs, like they have in the palace, on top of them. And then I have 2 others that were just plain. So I had 4 or 5. I've given them away, so I don't remember how many I had. But that was as much. And now this is my favorite chop that I use now when I sign my stuff, and that's where I haven't got it. I keep it in my briefcase.
Now, kind of going back to your interpreter, did you have the same interpreter the whole time?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to talk about interpreter and number 1 boy. Now, interpreter, usually it was where I was going to go. You had to pick one that
had to speak the dialect.
Could speak the dialect. Now, in my headquarters, like Quaylin, Aluja, where I was there a while, I had a regular interpreter that I used. See, in fact, we used them for the headquarters. We all had the same interpreter. But when we went on a trip, you always got one that would be able to speak the language wherever you're going. For example, when I was going behind the Jap lines, if I went from one province to the other, within 20 miles, he couldn't do it. I had to change the interpreter. Mm-hmm. And I would keep the old regular interpreter because sometimes he'd run into people that could speak his language and he could talk. But generally speaking, if you're talking to the native people, you had to get a new interpreter. It's just like north and south here, where there's a difference, but there it's more pronounced. It's quite different. And so that's the reason why I didn't ever learn the Chinese language, right, because I went everywhere, see. I was all over China, and there were just different dialects that you couldn't follow. So I didn't learn it, but I learned enough in Quaylin to get along at Quaylin while I was there, to eat, get on the trail and say hey and that kind of stuff. All right, now let me show one more thing. This is a replica or a miniature of a Chinese coffin. And I see they have carving at the end, and it's all wood. See, that's one solid piece of wood, solid. And then this is filled in and carved. Now, this isn't for the peasant now. But all the peasants will be buried in something like this. But the wealthy would have something like this, all painted up in gold, and it would slip in and out. See, that's the casket, mm-hmm, and this is the cap. And it's made just like this with a slip-on cover. And when it finished, they carry it on the shoulders like this. Now, and when they have a funeral, it's a joyous occasion. They'll have a choir or sort of a band or something. That is those who can afford it, out in front, and then they'll have mourners, the family all, and singing with the choir or the orchestra, whatever it is, and then the family with the coffin. So it's a very festive affair because they think that that's like we do. There's a life hereafter, and so they celebrate. And after the life they've lived, they're sure there's got to be better in the next life, because the peasants in China and even the middle or lower class, it's a rough life, I'll tell you. Now, this is a memory book that I brought back. It's got all kind of pictures in it of China. And this is Casey Vincent, the one I told you was the young general.
Can we set it here?
Yeah, sure can. Decoration.
Okay, tell us who it is again.
That's Casey Vincent, who was the CO of the 68 Composite Wing. That was my wing, and he was my CO for 9 months, actually 11 months before he was rotated. And these are his medals, and there's his star as a 29-year-old general. And he was a wonderful leader. And as far as I was concerned, I learned a great deal from him. He was a West Pointer and had 5.5 Jap planes that he shot down. So he had a good record.
Now, have you kept up with any of these?
Well, this, not him, because he died in 54, I think it was, or 54. Mm-hmm. He was at his desk and had a heart attack and dropped dead. Mm-hmm. but he was a great guy, and so he didn't carry on. Now, there are very few. I kept up with Ed Smith, who was the A2 intelligence officer. He was in New York, and every time I went up there, I used to call him, but he's gone now. Let's see, who else? Fred Bull, who was A4 in our headquarters for a short while, and then he was base commander out at Pei-Shi, at Chanting. He was a base commander when I was CO of the forward echelon out there. And I saw him and kept in touch with him on and off. And in fact, he came by Atlanta to see me at one time, and then he's gone. Let's see, who else? I can't think of any others now that I've even seen. Bob Pugh, who was the executive officer before me, I don't even think he's living. I don't believe any of the staff are living except me right now.
Wow.
See, I'm 88, and not many people around here at 88. So
I know.
Good Lord's been good to me. I'm here. All right, that's it. Now, this is the China Air Task Force patch.
All right, let me get
China Air Task Force. That was the second Flying Tiger group thing. I'll take it out if you want.
That's okay. We can probably just
Yeah.
there, right there. That's it.
You got it?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. Now, these are pictures of that rest camp that I told you that I went and found, and the Japs took it before we ever utilized it. But that's on the mountain nearby, and that's a house, that's the fish pond and swimming pool. The river's coming right by it, rice paddies, and these upside-down ice cream cones. See how they look like ice cream cones? And now this is on a raft in that lake that we went fishing and swimming, and there I am. These are the fish that made me sick. Cooked with the wrong kind of oil, see. Now this is another view of that same place from a lower level. But that was our rest camp if the Japs hadn't taken it. Now this is typical of a water tank tower. In other words, the water was brought to us. It was taken, put in a tank like this, just a 55-gallon drum or two of them, and it had bamboo pipe going down into the barracks of the mess hall or the kitchen. And they take the water and bring it in on yo-yo poles of 4.5 to 5-gallon buckets. And this is where they fill this for any facility had something like this as a water supply. And it was out of the rivers now, out of the rice paddies, and it's filthy, just filthy. And so you didn't drink that, but you could let it sit for a day and overnight, and it would the mud and stuff would settle, and you'd take the water out of it about 6 to 8 inches off the bottom, and it would begin to get clear by the next morning. So it would be started at the morning to fill it, and the next morning is when you took your shower. One shower a day, one washing per day. And that was off of this, out of a bamboo pipe into the thing. Now there's another one of these things where they had to climb to put the, see there's a tank, I think, right there. And there's another one. Now let me see what this is. Oh, that was our operations shack at Shanting. If you go to the museum at Warner Robins, they've got a so-called duplicate of that in the museum.
Well,
and this,
hold on just a second. I can't get that one.
Got it?
Tell you what, if you can bring it.
If you get a reflection, you just get nothing. I can take it out now if you want.
Oh, that's okay. I can get it here in just a second.
Got it?
There we go. Okay, good.
Got it, okay.
Right.
Now going on through here, this was Atlanta right up about when I was written up in Time magazine. And there I'm inspecting one of those.
You get a photocopy of one of those?
Yeah, take it.
Oh, he's got extra.
Take one.
Great.
Take one, yeah.
Put that in the file.
This is one of the bases that was Quail Inn, where we put 1,000-pound bombs up and down the runway, and then we were going back and looking at the hole. That's the hole it made.
Wow.
All right, this is the Time magazine that I was written up in.
Wow.
Oh, neat.
And the date was September the 25th, 1944, right after the evacuation of Quail Inn. And here is the article, I think. And if I got a copy, I'll let you have it. I may have to give you a copy. Yeah, here it is, but let's see if I got it all here, because if it's not all, I'll give you this one.
Do you want us to just go run another copy of this?
No, I'll make another copy.
You sure?
Yeah. I don't have to make. But this is a copy of that article in Time, and it starts with Battle of Asia, the taste of defeat, and this is when we left Kuei Lin, and this was written by Teddy White, who was the Time magazine editor at that time, and he wrote this about me because I was in charge of the evacuation, and here's what he says. At dawn, the B-29, last transport to take off, carrying Brigadier General Casey Vincent, his tactical staff, and it lists them, takes David Lee, Tex Hill, and so on. On the ground then would remain only the last demolition men under Colonel Waldo Kennison to blow the last field and the last buildings, and Major George Hightower to make sure no Air Corps strays were left behind in the last minute. Dispatcher: Hightower's a slim, superbly unruffled boy from Georgia. As soon as he ordered out, he was on the phone getting lists and so forth. And that's what it was.
Neat.
Yeah. So anyway,
Neat.
that's yours. Thank you. Thank you.
So I guess the folks at home were proud when this was in Time magazine.
Well, you know, a lot of them didn't see it, and my wife didn't see it until about 10 people started calling her, and she saw it. But that was the magazine it was in, and she finally saw it.
Oh, tell you what, let me get the picture of that cover.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can you get it?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Let's see what else is in here now. This is, one night we lost, you know, I told you our gas came in 55-gallon drums.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1,100 gallons, 11,000 gallons of gas right there.
Wow.
Hit by a Jap bomb, one of these banana bombs. I didn't bring one in here. Let's see if I did. Yes, I got one right here, I believe. Oh. Yeah. Are you with me? All right, yeah, I want to show you a banana bomb. This is one that just missed my gun pit one night. Well, where is it? No, I didn't bring that in here. I thought I had. Anyway, it's a small thing about the size of a hand grenade, and they drop them in clusters of 100, and they break up into clusters of 25, and then they break up into individual bombs, and they're just about as big as that hand right in here, like a hand grenade, and it has a little thing up like this with a cap in it, that when it goes down, there's a windmill with 3 cups in it. It goes around. As it falls through the air, they turn, and by the time it hits the ground, it screws its way all the way out, and when it hits the ground, the charge goes down and blows it up. And so this one missed my gun pit. I had 2 occasions. It hit my gun pit about 3 feet away from the round hole we hit in the ground. But it didn't go off because one of those pedals broke, so it wouldn't fin. So the charge wouldn't go off when it hit the ground. And so I reached out with my carbine, turned it over, and all I had to do was just unscrew it, take it apart, and dump the powder out, and it was all right, safe, so I brought it home with me. Now, the other time that I got hit was, there was the bomb. It was about a 200-pound bomb that hit one of my gun pits. It was another one I was on, and it caved the gun pit in. There's a round hole, mm-hmm. and I just about this much was above grade, see. So anyway, I was shooting the gun, and that thing went off, and the whole side of the cave just caved in. And the boy, the enlisted man I was with, who was the bully of the squadron and the mess sergeant, it covered both of us up to about here. So we dug each other out and finally got it all out. And he got up And he pulled his feet out of that dirt and jumped out of that pit and ran across the runway going up into one of the caves. It took 2 days to get him out of the cave. He was just really shell-shocked. And they finally put him in the hospital, and I had never seen a shell-shocked guy before, but I saw him. He's just all to pieces, and he's the bully of the squadron, really. And they finally sent him back to Kunming, and they couldn't do anything with him. They finally sent him home. He was the first and only case I saw of shell shock. And he just went to pieces. Really, he just went to pieces. But I kept shooting the gun. All right, let me see what else I got. Oh, this is a record of my career in the service. Here is a diary of my chaplain. This is the thickness of it, and I kept after him to write a diary because he has an interesting life, good experience. He was with me for 5 months, and one of the finest guys. And you asked me who I kept in touch with. I kept in touch with him until he died, except for a period of about 8 years when my letters started being returned. I couldn't find anybody who knew what happened to him. Well, it so happened that he left the ministry, Catholic ministry, and married a Chinese girl, and I think he was so upset about it, the fact that he didn't want people to know he left the church first. It didn't bother me. I just wanted to know where he was, and the fact that he married a Chinese and had left the ministry. So anyway, he went from there to Hawaii, and went with UNRWA, and later on he was with some other government agencies there, and he died just last year, as a matter of fact. And I had corresponded with him and sent him one of my tapes. And his daughter wrote me back and said he had the tape, but we never had a chance to, when he was rational, to show it to him. I wish you had seen it, because he's a part of that tape. I'll tell you, he is a part of
it. After the war, were you involved in any veterans organizations?
Yes, I stayed in the reserve as a reserve officer until about 1960, when I retired from that. I had 22 years, and so I got out. I never had to go on active duty during that period. I didn't get any pay. I just stayed on duty to get my time. And so when the time came, I just got out. And there was no vacancy to get a promotion. They only had one vacancy for the colonel, and that was CO of the squadron. So, and he was still there. He was there when I got there, and he stayed there until I left. So I never got another promotion out of it. But that was the organization. Now, the other organization I have joined and been active in is I joined the 14th Air Force Flying Tiger group, and my thing on my blouse there is a life member of the 14th Air Force, and I'm still a member of that. And I don't go to all the conventions, but I go to some of them occasionally because they're all over the country. And when I run my business and everything, I just couldn't do it. And then since then, I've seemed to have gotten so busy, I can't do hardly anything. I got so much to do as a retired guy. And then the other thing I've joined, and I'm active, a past commander of the China-Burma India Bachelors in Atlanta. So I've been active in it, and I just almost had to serve my second term because these younger guys, I mean, you know, the 70-year-olds and those, they won't take over the responsibility. I thought I was going to do it. But we had a new member that just joined this year, and I talked him into being the new commandant. And he did. He took it. So I've been active in that.
That organization, is it for people that served in China, Burma, India?
Yeah, it's China, Burma, India. You have to have served, and it says the date you start and the date you, when we quit. And in that period, if you have been assigned to duty in China, in any outfit, 14th or whatever, you are eligible for membership. So we've got infantry, artillery, air corps, everything.
Is that a national organization?
Yeah, it's all over the world. Where we got troops, we got them in Europe and Taiwan, all over. See, but it's called the China, Burma, India, the Confusion Beyond Imagination. See, and then I'm a member of the American Legion, and have been almost since the war. I'm past commander of our local post of that.
Wow.
And I'm also a member of the the old guard of the Gate City Guard, which started in 1857 in Atlanta. And my father was a member from 1880 to 1811 when they built the Peace Monument in Piedmont Park.
Right.
And that's the thing I want to show you about the cane. I didn't bring it, did we? I didn't bring it. I got to bring it back at you and let you see it. This is a cane that the originator of it had with a gold handle, and somebody gave it to me. And
you told me about that.
Yeah, well, I want y'all to look at it and tell me, and I just forgot to bring it today. Anyway, I was a commandant of that last year. So I've been active in a lot of them and been commander of most of them.
Great.
Let's see, what else you want to ask me?
Is there any other pictures you want to
Well, yeah, let's go on through here. Now, this is an evacuation train. If you look, that was in that, right next to this where they had some drums in it and it caught fire.
Yeah, if you've got is that
That's an evacuation train right there. Now, this will show you what it looks like trying to get out of a base. Now, that's a freight train. They're on top of it, they're in it, they're under it, they're on the sides, it is all over it. And that whole train is that way. But that particular train, the engine never got back in time, and so those people went to the hills. Got it?
Got it.
See, there's another picture of it right there. And these are pictures of there's pictures of the train. Look at that. And these are babies here. I got to tell you one thing, though. I saw so much starving after the Japs had gone to Changsha and the Tung Ting Lake area, which was north of Henyang. Let's see, it was Kuelin, Lingling, Kuelin, Henyang, and then the Tung Ting Lake area. That's where they raised 2 crops of rice a year. And so that was a real bread basket, a rice basket. So the Japs went in there and just took all the rice, see, and started shipping it back to Japan. And they even went to the farms and took what they had. Well, those people, there's no other place to get food. And so they started leaving there when we were evacuating, like Henyang, Lingling. So I was on the trail with a lot of them. And they were just dying all along the trail, all on the road from starvation. That really got me. I mean, I was so impressed with these people just trying to hang on and no food. And, they'd go around and pick up any little scraps that we dropped. And we even had people that were killed on our trucks because they tried to help some, and they'd come and kill him trying to get the rest of the food there. So the order was, and I couldn't do it, you can't help them unless you just take it out of your pocket and give them something. But if they know you got a supply, they'll just mob you and take it. And if they had to kill you, they'll do it. So it left an impression on me. So when I got home, I had this starvation picture, and I'd go out to dinner like you normally would, and everybody fills your plate. And if I saw people that didn't eat their food, Emily tells me I was obnoxious. Don't take it if you don't eat it. Don't take it. It was embedded in my brain that I was obsessed, really. And that was the only thing I can say that I brought back from the war, a hate of starvation. And I hated to see people wasting food. So I tell you that because to me, it was the only thing that really got me in China. I could take everything else I saw there but that.
One quick question.
Yeah.
We are going to have to wrap up because they're going to kick us out of the building.
Okay, let's go.
Did you ever have repeated to you about Japanese war atrocities, war crimes? I mean,
Yeah.
I know taking the food is a war crime.
It's a war crime, the worst type.
Any other sort of things like that?
When the pilots that went over and bombed Tokyo with Doolittle, and they came ashore. Well, every village they went through that Japs could identify, they destroyed it and killed everybody that had anything to do with them. And this was typical, we felt, of the Japanese mentality. And so I never saw but 5 prisoners the whole time I was in China. 4 of them were just emaciated, in foul shape. I don't know what they were when the Chinese got them, but when I saw them, they were being transferred from one truck to another to take them into Kunming. I don't believe they ever made it, because the Chinese, they just hated their guts because of what they had done to them, bombing the towns. Before we got there, they just indiscriminately just bombed town after town after town and burned it to the ground. And so the people just had no respect for them at all, and they did this all over the East. So I had this feeling when I was there that they just don't get in their hands. That's all I could say.
Yeah.
Don't get in their hands, because they were brutal. And their directive from the emperor was, you do what you need to do to win this war. And they would give up their lives like the kamikazes did. Like on the islands, they would get in a pit or behind a rock or something, and if they knew they were going to get killed or captured, they'd get up and grab you and then pull the plug on a hand grenade, kill themselves, and you too. And that went through island after island in the Pacific. And if you read Storm Landings, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I had that feeling about the Japanese. And I'm not too sure I've changed my mind.
Well, it's every Pacific veteran that we have talked to has said that that's one of the reasons they think dropping the bomb was a good idea, because
definitely
you would,
if we'd had to
still be fighting them.
Well, if we'd gone into Japan, I'm telling you, I think we'd fight the natives with a bamboo stick,
yeah,
with a sharp point on it, because that's the way I think we'd have had to fight it. And I'm so glad, because as I told you a while ago, I thought I'd be in the first landing.
Who is this?
That was Colonel Klassen, who was my second CO. After Casey left, he took over. So he's the one that was my CO at Sichuan, and there he is again. That's me right there. I'm his executive officer, and he's the three of our men. This man, yeah, he's still living. The rest of them are gone. He's out in California. Let's see what else I got here. This is that, see those water wheels I was telling you about? Oh, I didn't tell you about it. This is a water wheel. It's a wheel that turns with the stream. They got bamboo mats, and they're in the water, and the water goes by, it turns that wheel. And they're bamboo shoots of bamboo that like cups, and the whole water, and they're at an angle, and when it goes through the water, it picks up the water and brings it up to the top, and when it gets to the top, it goes into a little water tray and spills it in, and then that runs into this up to the high level. So that's the way they get the water from here up to there. And that's another way there where the coolies, paddle this and make this chain go up here and back, and it's in the water here, picks up the water, comes up here and dumps it. So that's another type of water pump. They had all kind of ways of getting water, including yo-yo pole and buckets. Let's see if we got anything else here. This is me at Chanting. This is Major Bull. Wait, yeah, that's Major Bull. Oh, wait a minute. Where's me? Is that me? I can't see it, so I can't tell who's here. Let me look at it. See. No, that's me right there. This is with my men out behind the hostel. Let's see. I got something over here. This is a B-25 that the general had. And the crew chief, the brakes failed on it and ran it, and it ruined it. And I had two of my mechanics out there that rebuilt that plane, and it was flown out. Oh, here's the picture I was looking for. That's Major Bull, and that's me, and that's the Padre, my chaplain, the one that wrote that diary. This is my Chinese card, see? That's thrashing the wheat out there, getting the rice. And this is again another group with the Padre in it. And this is my staff, but I was out behind the lines when this was taken, but these are he's A2, A3, A4, assistant A4, and he was adjutant at that time. And this is the colonel that, was on that mission behind the Jap lines with me, and he couldn't make it, Colonel Sells. And that's me with the official Chinese generals and colonels on that mission to see where we're going to land on the China coast tonight. This is looking at Chinese troops. This is what they look like. And see, they got short pants on, leggings, and their sandals were just under the feet. I've seen them in ice, snow, and sleet going into combat like that.
Huh.
It's really awful, but they fought as well as they could. Now, that's building run fields. I didn't go into that with you, but they built all those runways with a shovel, a pick, a hammer, and a little dynamite. And they took down hills, they filled in valleys, and they had stone rollers that they kept rolling back and forth to compact everything. And they built these things. They built the 5 bases at Chengdu in 6 months. And they had as many as 50,000 coolies on each base. And they built them, just like you see in here. That's rolling. And this is bringing the rocks in, I think. And this is same thing. Let's see, I thought I had a picture of the rock crusher here, which is an old woman with a hammer breaking up the rocks. I don't see it here. There you are, carrying the water and the mud. And they put those rocks down and put this mud and straw in between them. Now there they are building a runway. This is it, that thing. This is our command cave there. That's the P-40 with the Flying Tiger teeth. This is in North China. That's me giving a talk out at the Carter Center. And that's me out at the Vitz 7 variety on a P-40 that was flown in there. This picture is at a convention here in Atlanta of the Flying Tigers, and that's me in uniform. And this is a boy from Nashville, I can't think of his name now, but that was Dottie Luba, who was a secretary at Quay Lin of the base commander there. Huh. And so I knew her quite well. And when we saw each other at the Colony Square Hotel, she was coming down on the escalator and I was going up. And, this is at the 14th Air Force reunion, and I hadn't seen her since China. I looked up and I saw her face, and I says, "Dottie!" And she went by and she says, "Colonel George!" And with that, we went to the bottom and came back again. And we finally got together on the top, and we had a whole home week that whole weekend, because she was a wonderful gal. She was a Eurasian, she was an American Chinese descent. Her mother was American and her father was Chinese. And she was raised most of the time here, then went to China later. But she was there on the base with us, and she was just a great gal.
We got about 2 minutes.
Well, let's go. That's all I got now.
Well, I tell you what, this has been great.
Well, if you need any more things.
Real quick, who these folks are right here in this picture.
This is a boy who is past commander, Tony Tetasini, I think he's from out in Marietta. He was the commander of the Basher about 4 or 5 years ago, and he just died a couple of years ago, and that's me. In our Basher caps. This is as CBI and CBI, and you put things on. I have a few things like the past commander and that kind of stuff, and that's what his is.
Now, how often do the Bachelors meet?
We meet 3 times a year, usually spring and fall, and once in the summer for sort of an outing, we call it. And we have anywhere from, well, we got, let's see how many members now, about 100 and a little over 100 members in Atlanta Basher.
Wow.
Yeah, and if we have a meeting, we'll have as high as 50 or 60 that'll come to the banquets. In the daytime, we have it now, so at night, have it for lunch, and we're getting a better attendance than we had before. So that's the reason for it. But he's a wonderful guy. He ran a real estate business and came to this country, as almost he was an immigrant, and he had his own real estate business out in Marietta and was very successful. And he was one of our best commanders. He was a great guy.
We'll stop there.
He was a hump pilot.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, we lost more planes over the hump than we did in combat in China. That's an awful flight. I mean, you know, up, down, currents, and Japs, and no defense, and running into mountains if you don't get high enough to get over the mountains. And it was just a hazardous flight, I'll tell you.